Shalom, my friends, and welcome to Weekly Parsha with Yehuda Yisrael. This week's Parsha is Parshat Pinchas, a very famous Parsha, named after, of course, the grandson of Aaron, the high priest, Moses' brother. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Phineas, or Pinchas, as he is known in Hebrew, the son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the Cohen, has turned my anger away from the children of Israel by his zealously avenging me among them, so that I did not destroy the children of Israel because of my zeal. So, this is obviously from last week's Parsha, Parshat Balak, where we remember Pinchas was the one who killed Zimri and Cosby for fornicating in front of the nation of Israel, and that effectively stopped the plague that was being done because the Israelites were cohabiting with the foreign nation of Midian, the Midianite women. That was what Bilam did as his last-ditch effort. Since he couldn't curse Israel directly, he enticed them with women and idolatry, and it started working a little bit until Pinchas came and saved the day, and obviously many people find that very controversial, but at the end of the day, it saved the people. So it saved Israel from destruction. So do with that what you will. It says, therefore say, I shall give him my covenant of peace. Now this is interesting. If you look in the book of Malachi chapter 2, it says that the covenant with Levi is the covenant of shalom, the Brit Shalom. Now, Briti HaShalom, right? Or Briti Shalom, I guess is what it says, right? So it's linked back to Pinchas, that Pinchas, and when you see in the future third temple, it says specifically through the line of Tzadok, that the high priests, or the priests in the very inner parts of the holy temple, will be of Zadokite lineage, which was through Pinchas, or Phineas, right? Through Eleazar, through Aaron. So it shall be for him and his descendants after him as an eternal covenant of kahuna, because he was zealous for his God and atoned for the children of Israel. So then it says, and the name, so here we have atonement through, getting rid of the evil, not through Jesus' blood. So Hebrews 9:22, as we know, is a false statement in the New Testament, and that's why we put it in the garbage bin. So, going back to the truth of the Torah, the name of the Israelite man who was killed, who was slain with the Midianite woman, was Zimri of the tribe, of the son of Salu, of the chieftain of the tribe of Shimon, the paternal house. So he was a chieftain of the tribe of Shimon. And the name of the Midianite woman who was slain was Cosby, the daughter of Zur, and a national leader of the paternal house in Midian. So, very sad situation, but that's what happened. So, what ended up happening was the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Distress the Midianites, and you shall smite them, for they distress you with their plots, which they contrived against you in the incident of Peor, and the incident of Cosby, their sister, the daughter of the Midianite chieftain, who was slain on the day of the plague because of Peor, right, the idol worship. So it was after the plague that the Lord spoke to Moses and to Eleazar, the son of Aaron, saying, Take the census of the congregation of the children of Israel from 20 years old and upwards, following their fathers' houses, all that are fit to go out to war in Israel. And Moses and Eleazar the Cohen spoke with them in the plains of Moab and the Jordan of Jericho, saying, From the age of 20 and upward, as the Lord commanded Moses and the children of Israel, who would come out of Egypt. Now, I think everybody under the age of 20 were actually people who made it into the land of Israel. I think we might have read about that in a previous Parsha. That's something interesting. A lot of people have this misconception that the only people who made it into the land of Israel were Joshua and Caleb, who were, wandering in the desert. That's not technically true, because a lot of people were born along the way. So there were some other people who may have even experienced, I think, perhaps even experienced slavery in Egypt. But regardless, yes, we have people who were in the desert wandering, who made it into the land of Israel, and it wasn't just Caleb and Joshua. So anyway, so Bamidbar, chapter 26. Reuben Israel's firstborns, the descendant of Reuben were, okay, so this is a census. You can read the census if you like. I think we've read this census before. So from what I understand, I'm pretty sure that so it's talking about so let's get to the part where it talks about the chosen of the congregation who incited against Moses and Aaron in the assembly of Korach when they incited against the Lord, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them and Korach when the assembly died, and when the fire destroyed 250 men, and they became a sign, right? And then it says Korach's sons, however, did not die. So that is significant because those are the surviving. Like in the Psalms, you have a lot of references to the sons of Korach who wrote a lot of Shirim, right? Oh, here's something. It says the family of the Herzonites from Herzon, the family of the Carmites from Carmi. I think this is related. There's something related to Herzon when it comes to Caleb. There's a lot of people who have this silly idea that Caleb was a goy, that he was not really, and he converted. And it has to do, I think there's another Herzon who is related, who is Caleb's father, and it describes it in the book of Chronicles. Okay, so let's go over some of these Reubenites. So it says the sons of Palu were Eliab, and it says the sons of Eliab were Nimul, Dathan, and Abiram, and they're the Dathan and Abiram, the chosen of the congregation who incited against Moses and Aaron in the assembly of Korah. So they were killed, right? So that's what this was describing. And the descendants of Shimon according to their families, right? And then, of course, we have the family of the Shimonites, and it gives the number, and the descendants of Gad according to their families, the Oznites and the Erites of Eri, and the family of the Erodites from Erod. So yes, we have a lot of counting in the census. Families of Gad among them. The sons of Judah were Aaron Onan, but Aaron Onan died in the land of Canaan. That's referencing back to the sons of Judah who were supposed to have relations with Tamar, but what ended up happening was they spilled their seed, or I guess that's what it says specifically for Onan, and he was supposed to do a Levirate marriage, or Yibum, and he desecrated it by spilling his seed on the ground, and that's why they had died. So then it says the descendants of Judah, the Sheolites and the Perizzites. The Perizzites are the ones where the Messiah comes from, the family of the Zerahites, right? And the descendants of Peretz were from the family of Herzon. Yes, so this is where, this is a link to Caleb, the Herzonites, right? Herzon. Okay, so I was right. These were the families of Judah, according to those of them counted, 76,500. Okay, so the descendants of Issachar, right? So then it gives their descendants, a family of Jabushites and the Shimronites from Shimron, and the families of Issachar, families of Zvulun, gives their names. Oh, there we go, Jehiel. Families of Zvulun according to their, and then we have the descendants of Yosef according to Ephraim and Manasseh. Manasseh has Gilad, right? So this is yeah, fine. So then you have the descendants of Gilad, Helikites and Shechem, and you have the Shemida, okay? And then, here is the infamous verse here. Now Tzalavchad, the son of Hefer, had no sons, only daughters. And the names of Tzalavchad's daughters were Mala, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tizra. These are the families of Manasseh, and those of them counted were 52,700. And these are the descendants of Ephraim according to their families. And so it gives the descendants of Ephraim and the descendants of Erodites from Aaron, and their families of the descendants of Ephraim according to those who are counted. Okay, great, more numbers. That's why they call this numbers. And they're descendant of Joseph according to their families, and the descendants of Binyamin according to their families. Okay, so we have their names, and the descendants of the Shufamites, Shufam, the sons of Bela, Naaman. Okay, descendants of Binyamin according to their families, sons of Dan according to their families, the Shulamite families, the descendants of Asher according to their families, sons of Berea, Himerites, And the name of Asher's daughter was Sarah, right? Because she was still alive. She is mentioned here, right? I think there's a Sarach. I think she was the one that, according to a midrash, was singing that Yosef was still alive, and she survived for a very long time. That's according to some midrash. I think, okay, so Sota 13a. Okay, check that out. These are the families, descendants of Asher, those on the counted, and the families of Naphtali according to their families, and so then the Jerizzites and the families of Naphtali again, and the children of Israel 600 and 1,730. Okay, that's a lot of people. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "You shall apportion the land among these as an inheritance in accordance with the number of their names." Right? It says, "To the large tribe you shall give a larger inheritance, and the smaller tribe you shall give a smaller inheritance. Each person shall give an inheritance according to his number. Only through lot shall the land be apportioned and inherited according to their names of their fathers' tribes." That's how it is inherited, right? So we know tribal heritage goes to the father. The inheritance shall be apportioned between the numerous and the few according to the lot. These are the numbers of the Levites given to their families. The families of the Gershonites of Gershon, the family of the Kohathites from Kohath, and the family of the Merarites from Merari, the families of Levi, the family of the Lebaonites, and the Hebronites, and the Malachites, and the Mushites, and the Kohites, and God Amram, who was the father of Moses. And the name of Amram's wife was Yochebed, the daughter of Levi, who her mother had borne Levi in Egypt, and she bore Amram. She bore two Amram, Aaron, Moses, and their sister Miriam. I believe Miriam was the oldest. Born to Aaron were Nadav, Abihu, Eleazar, and Itamar. Nadav and Abihu died when they offered up an unauthorized fire before the Lord. Of course, we know that from previous Parshiot. And those counted among them were 23,000, every male aged 1 and upward. They were not counted among the children of Israel, since no inheritance was given to them among the children of Israel. And there was a census. This was the census of Moses and Eleazar the Cohen, who counted the children of Israel by the plains of Moab, by the Jordan at Jericho. Among these there was no man who had been included among the census of Moses and Aaron. They counted the children of Israel in the Sinai desert. For the Lord had said to them, "They shall surely die in the desert," and no one was left but Caleb the son of Yefuneh and Joshua the son of Nun. Okay. Now here is the infamous part that Christians love to abuse. Even Radar Apologetics just made a video that abused this context. I'll have to correct him on his silliness. So here it is. Dr. Michael Brown uses this verse to take out of context to argue that Jesus can somehow be of the tribe of Judah, even though he didn't have an earthly father. But we will demonstrate how that is complete hogwash in, I believe it could be the next week's Parsha or the Parsha after that, because this story is repeated more than once. It's the same story, but it's given more details later. So the daughters of Tzlochad, the son of Hefer, son of Gilad, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, of the families of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, came forward, and his daughters came were Mala, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. They stood before Moses and Eleazar the Cohen, before the chieftains of the entire congregation at the entrance of the tent, saying, "Our father died in the desert." So it says, according to the Midrash, from what I understand, that he was actually the person who was collecting the firewood. So he was stoned for that. So he broke the Sabbath, right? And of course, how do you know what work is without an oral tradition, right? So that's important to recognize, that we had to have some sort of understanding of this. Without an oral tradition, how are we supposed to know? So we have evidence for that in this story, but he was not like the assembly that banded against the Lord in Korach's assembly, but he died for his own sin, and he had no sons. Why should our father's name be eliminated from his family? Because he had no son. Give us a portion along with our father's brothers. So Moses brought their case before the Lord. Now this is in accordance really with what is described in Deuteronomy 17, right? If the case is too difficult for you. Well, I guess it's also described here in Deuteronomy 1:17, but you could argue also in Deuteronomy chapter 17 when it speaks about this is what you're supposed to do. You go to the place that the Lord chooses, and then you follow what the people tell you. And of course, Moses had a direct connection with Hashem, so you're going to get the law directly from Hashem. There was no other time in history when you really had such a close connection, through Moses. That's what made him the greatest prophet. So people try, I've seen some silly, anti-oral Torah people try and argue, well, there's no oral Torah because Moses had to ask God. Well, of course he had to ask God, because that's what it says. That's how the oral Torah was transmitted. God would give the law to Moses, and then Moses would transmit it to the rest of the people, and then the people would understand it. So after Moses died, we didn't have that direct connection anymore. And that is why God gave that authority to the Sanhedrin through the succeeding prophets, right? In Deuteronomy 18, it says prophets like Moses, right? It's not referring to one singular prophet. It's giving the precedent for it. And we'll get to those chapters. But anyway, just to dismiss any of this, it proves there's no oral Torah. On the contrary, it actually proves that there had to have been an oral Torah. And there always was an oral Torah, and it's sourced at Moses. So the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Tzlachad's daughters speak justly. You shall certainly give them a portion of inheritance among their father's brothers, and you shall transfer their father's inheritance to them. So what people leave out of this is that later, and we'll see this in subsequent Parshiot, that this story is brought up again, and it says that they are required to marry within their tribe. They have to marry somebody from the tribe of Manasseh. If they don't do that, then their children will not inherit the land of their father, Tzlavchad, of the tribe of Manasseh, which means it still proves that tribal heritage goes through the father, even in the case that somebody only has daughters. It doesn't prove anything about Jesus having lineage through Judah and David that is legitimately tribal, that gives him that tribal status, even in the case of Tzlavchad's daughters, because what allowed them to inherit the land? Them marrying within their tribe. So it still is through the father that inheritance and tribal heritage is delineated, even in the case of Tzlachad's daughters. So any Christian who wants to distort this, like Dr. Michael Brown, Radar Apologetics, Courtney Smith, any one of you silly Christians who think that you have an argument here, you don't. And we'll get to that. So speak to the children of Israel. And saying, if a man dies and has no sons, you shall transfer his inheritance to his daughter. If he has no daughter, you shall give over his inheritance to his brothers. If he has no brothers, you shall give his inheritance to his father's brothers. If his father has no brothers, you shall give his inheritance to his closest kinsman, to him and his family. He shall inherit it. This shall remain a decreed statute, as the Lord commanded Moses. And the Lord said to Moses, Go up to this mount Abarim, and look at the land that I have given to the children of Israel. And when you have seen it, you'll be gathered to your people, just as Aaron your brother was gathered, because you disobeyed my command in the desert of Zin when the congregation quarreled. You were to sanctify me through the water before their eyes, these waters of dispute at Kadesh in the desert of Zin. Moses spoke to the Lord, saying, Let the Lord, God of spirits and all flesh, appoint a man over the congregation who will go forth before them and come before them, who will lead them out and bring them in, so that the congregation of the Lord will not be like a sheep without a shepherd. And the Lord said to Moses, Take for yourself Joshua, the son of Nun, a man of spirit, and you shall lay your hand upon him, and you shall present him before Eleazar the Cohen and before the entire congregation, and you shall command him in their presence, and you shall bestow some of your majesty upon him, so that the majesty of the children of Israel will take heed. And he shall stand before Eleazar the Cohen and seek counsel from him through the judgment of the Urim before the Lord. By his word they shall go, and by his word they shall come, and he and all Israel with him, the entire congregation. Moses did as the Lord had commanded him, and he took Joshua and presented him before Eleazar the Cohen and before the entire congregation, and he laid his hands upon him and commanded him in accordance with what the Lord had spoken to Moses. So this is an example of the first, smicha, like the passing of the torch of the leader of the generation. And that is also what is understood in Deuteronomy 18, which we'll get to later, of course, which is not about Jesus. It is simply about the transfer of people subsequently from Moses, including Joshua, or Isaiah, Jeremiah, any prophet, right? So the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Command the children of Israel and say to them, my offering, my food for my fire offerings, as spirit of satisfaction for me, you shall take care to offer at its appointed time. You shall say to them, this is a fire offering that you offer to the Lord, 2 unblemished lambs in their first year, each day as a continuing burnt offering. 1 lamb you shall offer up in the morning, and 1 lamb you shall offer up in the afternoon." Yes. So this is, I think some people look at this as a very, very, very important verse. I think some people argue that it's one of the more important. Anyway, I don't want to get into it, but and 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour, a meal offering mixed with a quarter hin of crushed olive oil, a continual burnt offering as the one offered up at Mount Sinai for a spirit of satisfaction, a fire offering for the Lord. Right? Its libation shall be 1/4 of a hin of each lamb, to be poured in the holy altar as libation of strong wine to the Lord. And a 2nd lamb you shall offer up in the afternoon. You shall offer it up in the same meal offering and the libation in the morning service as a fire offering with spirit and satisfaction of the Lord. ויום השבת שני כבשים בני שנה תמימים ושני עשרים סולת מנחה בלולב השמן בנזקו עולת שבת בשבתו עולת התמיד בנזקו. I haven't led Musaf in a while, but this is a very famous line from the Musaf service. It says, on the Sabbath day, 2 unblemished lambs in the first year and 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a meal offering mixed with oil and its libation. This is the burnt offering of each Sabbath and on its Sabbath, in addition to the continual burnt offering and its libation. Right? So this is also proof of the oral Torah, because it says in the Torah you're not allowed to kindle a fire on Shabbat. Yet you are supposed to make burnt offerings on Shabbat, additional offerings for the Musaf service. How do you reconcile that without an oral Torah? Literally, you are punished by death if you, knowingly commit a violation of the Sabbath, such as just picking up sticks, right? Yeah, so there has to be some way to reconcile this, and you don't have explicit instruction on how to do this, and that's why the oral Torah is required to deal with these sorts of apparent contradictions. This is how we are able to have burnt offerings on the Sabbath without being liable for the death penalty, whereas somebody just picking up sticks on the Sabbath was liable for the death penalty. When how do you define work? You wouldn't be able to function at all if you didn't have an oral Torah. So there had to be something, right? So that's why we follow an oral Torah that has been sourced at Moses, and this is how it's reconciled, right? We have it in the tradition that we've been given. That's how it's been understood. And if you're claiming that you know how to do it, yet you never even attempted to keep the Torah because you claim that Jesus fulfilled it for you, then you're not holding in the Parsha. You have nothing to do with the Torah. You are redefining the Torah for your own nefarious, idolatrous purposes that are not according to what God says. It's really as simple as that. And that's what you see in Christianity. So there is an oral Torah. That's how we reconcile doing work on the Sabbath that isn't really work, because it is supposed to be done in accordance with the law. Without the oral Torah, it would look like you're doing a violation of the Sabbath by doing work. But this is specifically in light of what you're supposed to do on the Sabbath, is give these burnt offerings, even though it says in the Torah not to kindle a fire. See if you can explain that to a Christian without their brain exploding, or them just completely ignoring the topic, which is usually what happens. I know how to do it. You don't do it. You just claim Jesus did it for you. It's stupid. They don't understand the basic understanding of Torah. So in the beginning of your months, you shall offer up a burnt offering to the Lord, 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 lambs, in the first year unblemished. 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a meal offering and a mixed offering, mixed with oil with each bull, and 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour for a meal offering mixed with oil for each ram, and the 1/10 of the ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as a meal offering for each lamb, and a burnt offering with the spirit of satisfaction, a fire offering to the Lord. And of their libations, half a hin for each bull, and a third of hin for each ram, and a quarter hin for each lamb. Wine, and this is the burnt offering of each new month in its month throughout the months of the year. So you also have for Rosh Chodesh, head of the month, and 1 young male goat for a sin offering to the Lord. It shall be offered in addition to the continual burnt offering and its libation. Great. And in the first month, the 14th of the month, you shall offer up the Passover offering to the Lord. In the 15th day of the month, the festival begins. You shall eat unleavened bread for 7 days. The first day is a holy convocation. You shall not perform any mundane work. How do you define work? Once again, and you also have fire offerings on that day, right? You shall offer a fire offering, a burnt offering to the Lord, 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 lambs in the first year. They shall be unblemished for you. So once again, you have this contradictory problem, but with an oral Torah, it's not a problem. We're not doing a violation of work on the Sabbath because this is required to celebrate the holiday, just like for Shabbat. But explain that to a Christian who rejects the oral Torah. Anyway, their meal offering shall be fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 for each bull, and 2/10 for the ram you shall offer up, and you shall offer up 1/10 for each lamb for all 7 lambs, and 1 young goat for a sin offering to atone for you, and you shall offer up these besides the morning burnt offering, which is offered as a continual burnt offering. Like these you shall offer up for 7 days. Food of the fire offering and a spirit of satisfaction to the Lord, and you shall offer up this in addition to the continual burnt offering and its libation. And on the 7th day it shall be a holy convocation for you. You shall not perform any mundane work. Yet it says that you offer up fire offering for 7 days. Explain that to me, Christians, without an oral Torah. You can't. Oh, Jesus fulfilled it for us. Get out of here. On the day of first fruits, B'Yom HaBikorim, right? Christians like to call it first fruits or Pentecost or whatever they call it. This is Shavuot, right? When you offer up a new meal offering to the Lord in your festival of weeks, right? This is where we get the Shavuot. Bashavuot Techem. Bashavuot Te. Yeah. The festival of weeks, not works. It shall be a holy convocation for you, and you shall not perform any mundane work. But you're offering up a burnt offering with a spirit of satisfaction to the Lord. 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 lambs. And once again, you have the same problem. Not if you have an oral Torah. Their meal offering shall be fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of each bull, and 2/10 for the ram, and 1/10 for each lamb for all 7 lambs, and 1 male goat to atone for you. No Jesus blood required. And you shall offer this up besides the continual burnt offering and its meal offering. They shall be unblemished for you, as well as their libations. And in the 7th month, on the 1st day, there shall be a holy convocation for you, and you shall not perform any mundane work. It shall be a day of shofar sounding for you. So this is referring to Rosh Hashanah. Any of you Christians who are going to come up here and tell me that Rosh Hashanah is some rabbinic thing and it's not really in the Bible, I refer you to Zechariah chapter 40. I believe that's where it describes the Rosh Hashanah, which on the 10th of the month, of course, refers to Yom HaKippurim, which is how it has been understood traditionally, is when Ezekiel received that prophecy of the future third temple. So there's Rosh Hashanah in the Tanakh. You're welcome. Stop telling us that Rosh Hashanah is some rabbinic invention. Anyway, you shall offer up a burnt offering for the spirit of satisfaction to the Lord, one young bull, one ram, and 7 lambs in the first year, unblemished. And their meal offering shall be fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 in the bull and 2/10 for the ram, and 1/10 for each lamb, for 7 lambs, and 1 young goat and a sin offering to atone for you. And this besides the burnt offering of the new months and its meal offering, and the continual burnt offering and its meal offering, and libations prescribed for them as a spirit of satisfaction, a fire offering to the Lord. And here it is, on the 10th day of the 7th month, there shall be a holy convocation for you, and you shall afflict your souls, which means to fast in this case, and you shall not perform any work. But you're still offering up a burnt offering to the Lord, once again, on all of these holy days, a spirit of satisfaction, 1 young bull, 1 young ram, and 7 lambs in the first year, and they shall all be unblemished. And also you see that in the Yovel year, in the Jubilee year, you see in, I forget what Parsha it was, I think we talked about it before, it describes the idea that that is when a Jubilee is mentioned. So that's in that 7th month, which gives precedence for, because the Jubilee year is announced in that 7th month, which is traditionally the 7th month. It also has a first month status in the context of the Jubilee year. So there is even a biblical precedence for saying that the first year, the first month of the year would be in Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah, and then on the 10th day, right, is Yom HaKippurim. So there you go, silly Christians telling us that we made up Rosh Hashanah and it's not a real thing. It's described as Yom Teruah, right, in the Bible. So, like in the Torah itself, but it's also referred to as Rosh Hashanah in the book of Ezekiel. And their meal offering shall be fine flour mixed with oil, and 3/10 for the bull, and 2/10 for the ram, and 1/10 for each lamb, for 7 lambs, and a young male goat for a sin offering, beside the atonement sin offering and the continual burnt offering and its meal offering and their libations. So for the final Aliyah, on the 15th day of the 7th month, there shall be a holy convocation for you. You shall not perform any mundane work, and you shall celebrate a festival to the Lord for 7 days. You shall offer up a burnt offering, a fire offering of spirit and satisfaction to the Lord, 13 young bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs in the first year, and they shall all be unblemished. And their meal offering shall be mixed with oil, and 3/10 for each bull, and 13 bulls, and 2/10 for each. Okay, lots and lots of. Right, so this is referring to Sukkot, right? The 15th day of the month of Tishrei, yeah. And there's a whole bunch of lambs here and bulls for the 70 nations as it's understood, right? Rashi describes that that's for the nations of the world. And we see in Zechariah chapter 14 that even the Gentile nations will celebrate the festival of Sukkot in the times of the Messiah. Of course, Jesus failed to fulfill all of that, so look forward to that when the real Messiah actually comes. So then it's describing the libations and the bulls and the rams and the 4th day and all the different libations and rams and lambs and bulls and rams and lambs and bulls. And then on the 8th day, we have Shmini Atzeret, which is when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, Simchat Torah, also known as Shmini Atzeret in Israel. And that was obviously a horrible tragedy. And it's supposed to be a very happy day. And it's probably not a coincidence that that's when they decided to attack us on one of our happiest days. Very sad. Horrible. But, of course, we know what the end will be. They will not succeed in Am Yisrael Chai. So you shall offer up a burnt offering, a fire of spirit and satisfaction of the Lord, 1 bull, 1 ram, 7 lambs for the first year. So that's for Shmini Atzeret, for that final day of Sukkot, or I guess you could argue it's a separate holiday all of itself. And these are that's what you do. You offer up your burnt offerings, your meal offerings, your libations, and for your peace offerings. And then the final verse of the chapter, Numbers chapter 30. Moses spoke to the children of Israel in accordance with all that the Lord had commanded Moses. So there you go. I hope this video has been a blessing to you all. Shalom Aleichem.